Why, racist cop pulls over a young black woman driving a Lexus, then realizes who her father is. A luxury car. A quiet night. A young woman driving home from her job, but in small-town Georgia. That was enough to spark suspicion. Especially when her skin was dark and her window was down. He said she didn't signal. Said her license looked off. Said she was out of place on that road. But what he didn't know was that the woman he tried to intimidate wasn't just anyone. Her name is Jada Carmichael, and the man she called Daddy had more power in this state than a badge ever could. This is a story about a cop who thought he could scare his way into control, but ended up exposing something much bigger. It's about racial profiling, the arrogance of unchecked power, and what happens when the target fights back. Lawfully, fiercely, and with the full weight of legacy behind her. Stick around, drop a comment letting us know where you're watching from, and subscribe if you believe in justice that cuts through the noise. Because once you hear who her father is, you'll understand why everything changed in the next 7 days. Now let's begin. It was just after 9:15 p.m. on a Thursday in August. Bainbridge, Georgia. A 2-lane highway bordered by pine trees, and the warm hum of cicadas filled the air. Jada Carmichael, 26, with deep brown skin and a head full of curls pinned up in a soft bun, was heading home from her job at an architectural firm in Tallahassee. She had stayed late working on a presentation, slipped off her heels at the end of the day, and drove barefoot as the smooth jazz on her playlist trickled through the speakers of her midnight blue Lexus RX. She wasn't speeding. She wasn't swerving. She was simply driving home, northbound on Route 27, windows half down, cool air brushing across her arm. That's when the headlights appeared behind her. At first, she didn't think much of them. People tailgate all the time, but the lights stayed on her too close. Then a flash, red and blue strobes lit up the inside of her car. She frowned, checked her speedometer. She was going exactly 47 in a 50. Still, she pulled to the shoulder, signaled, slowed, did everything right. She was calm, but alert. Her father had trained her for this. Keep your hands visible, he'd always say. Stay polite, stay strong, but never, ever let them rewrite the story. The cruiser pulled up behind her. A floodlight shot across the rearview mirror. Jada inhaled, exhaled, clicked on the dome light and placed her hands on the wheel. Boots hit gravel. She could see him approaching, mid-40s, white, wide in the shoulders, and sure of himself. He tapped the flashlight against the glass. She rolled it down 2 inches. "License and registration," he barked. "No hello. No ma'am." Jada's eyes didn't flinch. "It's in the glove box," she said calmly. "I'm going to reach." "Do it slow." She obeyed. Passed the documents through the crack in the window. He looked at them for a moment, then at her. "You live around here?" "I live in Atlanta. I'm heading home from work." "You got Atlanta plates. What brings you through Bainbridge?" "I work in Tallahassee. This is my route." He narrowed his eyes. "You signaled back there?" Jada blinked. "Yes." He studied her again like he was trying to see past her appearance, looking for something that confirmed his suspicion. Then he nodded. Once walked back to his cruiser. She sat, hands still on the wheel, heart starting to thump, not because she was afraid of being arrested, but because she could feel it. This wasn't a normal stop. 10 minutes passed, then 15. Then he came back. "I'm going to need you to step out of the vehicle." Her brows furrowed. "For what reason?" He stiffened. "I asked you to step out." "Now." She took a breath, unbuckled, opened the door, and stepped onto the gravel shoulder. He motioned toward the hood. She placed her hands on it. "I'm conducting a search," he said flatly. Jada turned her head slightly. "I do not consent to a search." He paused. "Excuse me." "I do not consent to a search," she repeated, "and I'd like to call my attorney." The officer's nostrils flared. He took a step closer. "You got something to hide?" "No," she said. "But I know my rights." He didn't like that. Not one bit. He cuffed her, right there beside her Lexus. On a quiet Georgia road, he twisted her arms behind her back and cuffed her wrists. "No probable cause," she said, voice even. "I'm not resisting." "I think you're high," he muttered, and shoved her into the back seat of his car. But here's what he didn't know. Jada's father is Judge Terrell Carmichael, the presiding federal judge of the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals, a man who had sentenced corrupt politicians who had served under 2 presidents, whose rulings had reshaped voting laws across the South. And Jada. She wasn't just a pretty face in a Lexus. She was a law graduate, top 5% of her class. She'd interned with the ACLU, and she knew the Georgia state code like the lyrics to her favorite gospel song. The moment they arrived at the Decatur County Jail, and she made her one phone call, the storm began. By midnight, her father was on a private call with the Georgia Attorney General by 2 a.m. Her law firm partner was waiting at the jail with 2 attorneys. By 8 a.m., CNN was calling the department for comment. What the officer thought was routine intimidation was actually the spark that would torch a web of misconduct. See, Officer Blake Harlan had a history, 3 previous complaints. For excessive force, 2 for illegal stops. 1 buried internal investigation. But no consequences because no one powerful enough had ever pushed back. Until now, the arrest video went viral. Jada standing barefoot, calm, reciting her rights as Blake cuffed her with unnecessary force. The backlash was immediate. Protesters gathered outside the Decatur County Courthouse. Law students tweeted. In solidarity, civil rights lawyers offered free representation. And the mayor of Bainbridge? She called it an embarrassment to the city. Officer Harlan was placed on administrative leave. Then the state opened an investigation. But Jada didn't just want suspension. She wanted change. She held a press conference the next day. Standing beside her father, she spoke. "I wasn't afraid of being arrested. I was afraid of being erased, of being just another black woman silenced by a false narrative." The cameras clicked. The crowd murmured, "I'm pressing charges not just for myself, but for every person stopped for driving while black. For every young woman told to be quiet when they speak truth. For every father who teaches his daughter how to survive a traffic stop instead of just driving home." The investigation didn't take long. They found body cam footage audio that captured Blake's sneer when he said, "She thinks she's smart." They uncovered a pattern. Dozens of traffic stops, all targeting minorities, many without justification. The state moved to decertify him, and the DOJ opened a probe into the department. Jada returned to work the next week quietly, without fanfare. But something had shifted. She was no longer just an architect. She had become an advocate. At night, she worked on a project designing a memorial for victims of police violence. A curved wall of names and lights set to be built in Atlanta. And Officer Blake Harlan? He resigned before they could fire him. Moved out of state. His name? Tarnished. His record? Public. His power? Gone. This wasn't just a story about a traffic stop. It was about perception and how fragile some badges become when faced with real power. The power of truth. The power of knowing your rights. The power of having people who will fight for you. Jada Carmichael didn't raise her voice, didn't curse or scream. She stood calm because she didn't need rage to prove her worth. She had history, legacy, law, and a father who taught her that silence in the face of injustice is just another kind of submission. If this story moved you, share it, comment where you're watching from, and subscribe for more stories that make silence impossible. Because someone else might be sitting in their car right now, windows down, jazz playing, wondering if the lights behind them mean something more than just a stop.